Some people think passive voice is a bad writing habit. But is that really true? I'll dive right into the topic and get to the bottom of this in this episode of Grammarly's Level Up. If you find this video helpful, please be so kind as to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. And before you go, make sure you visit Grammarly.com to see how you can download free communication assistance today. Let's move on to the lesson. It's important to note that the active voice makes your writing stronger, more direct, and you guessed it, more active. But on the other hand, with the passive voice, the subject is acted upon by some other performer of the verb. But truth be told, the passive voice is actually not incorrect. In fact, there are times when it can come in handy. So, what is the difference between active and passive voice? While tense is all about time references, voice describes whether the grammatical subject of a clause performs or receives the action of the verb. Here's the formula for the active voice. Subject plus verb performed by the subject plus optional object. For example, Chelsea kicked the ball. In a passive voice construction, the grammatical subject of the clause receives the action of the verb. So the ball from the above sentence, which is the receiving action, becomes the subject. The formula for the passive voice: subject plus some form of the verb to be and a past participle of the transitive verb plus optional prepositional phrase. The ball was kicked by Chelsea. That last little bit, by Chelsea, is a prepositional phrase that tells you who the performer of the action is. But even though Chelsea is the one doing the kicking, she's no longer the grammatical subject. A passive voice construction can even drop her from the sentence entirely. The ball was kicked. If you're writing anything with a definitive subject that is performing an action, you'll be better off using the active voice. And if you search your document for occurrences of was, is, or were, and your page lights up with instances of a passive voice, it may be a good idea to switch to an active voice. That said, there are times when the passive voice does a better job of presenting an idea, especially when the performer of the action of a sentence's verb is very general or diffuse, is unknown, or should get less emphasis than the recipient of the action. Here are 3 common uses of the passive voice. Use number 1, in broad statements about widely held opinions or social norms. Example, tipping less than 20% is now considered rude. The writer of this sentence is communicating that they believe enough people share the opinion that tipping less than 20% is rude to qualify as a consensus. In other words, the performer of the action, the people doing the considering, is so general that it can be left out of the sentence entirely. Use number 2, in reports of crimes with unknown perpetrators or other actions with unknown doers. Example, my car was stolen yesterday. If you knew who stole the car, you might be closer to getting it back. The passive voice here emphasizes the stolen item and the action of theft. Here's another example. The grass was cut yesterday. The emphasis here is on the grass, which presumably is observably shorter. Someone must have cut it, but whoever it was is not the concern of this sentence. Use number 3, in scientific contexts. Example, the mouse was placed in a T-shaped maze. Well, who placed the mouse in the maze? Scientists perhaps, but that's less important than the experiment they're conducting. Therefore, passive voice. Let's now look at scenarios where you want to keep the focus on an action and/or the recipient of the action. In each of these sentences I'm about to read, the passive voice is natural and clear for one of the reasons I previously shared. Passive, Bob Dylan was injured in a motorcycle accident. Active, a motorcycle accident injured Bob Dylan. Passive, Elvis is rumored to be alive. Active, people rumor Elvis to be alive. Passive, don't be fooled. Active, don't allow anything to fool you. To sum up the passive versus active voice discussion, remember these 5 points. 1. The passive voice isn't a grammatical mistake. It's a matter of style. 2. Use the active voice if it makes your sentence sound clearer and more natural. 3. Forming passive voice requires the verb to be and a past participle. 4. The passive voice is your friend when the thing receiving an action or the action itself is the important part of the sentence. 5. When it comes to good writing, don't be passive, even if your sentences sometimes need to be. That's all for this active episode of Level Up on Grammarly's YouTube. Check out Grammarly.com for the best in-class writing assistants that can provide suggestions for passive voice and a whole lot more. See you next time.